Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special Christmas edition of Inside Arsenal Extra Time. You're watching this on Christmas Day. Slight disclaimer, we're not recording this on Christmas Day. Both of us got pretty jam-packed schedules at the moment. So we've, at the very last minute, managed to squeeze in about half an hour or so now, James, to record this. It's going to be a review of Arsenal in 2023. It is going out on Christmas Day. So on that note, happy Christmas, mate. I hope you're getting all the presents that you asked for on your Christmas list.
I hope you are too. Happy Christmas, mate. Yeah, it's. I mean, the excitement right now is we're only in this world. We're only 3 days away from Arsenal West Ham. I mean, I presume that
Well,
Arsenal
and we've just beaten Liverpool 7-0 at Anfield and got rid of the Anfield hoodoo. Glorious.
Unbelievable. I can't believe Virgil van Dijk decided to kick the ball into his own net 3 times.
I know, what a brilliant last round of fixtures before Christmas. Arsenal winning 7-0 at Anfield, Tottenham losing, Man City losing, Villa losing.
Pep's resigned.
I know. Who could ask for a better Christmas present than that? Of course we jest, but hopefully all of that has happened in the days since we've recorded this. But look, we are going to get together now, mate, and do a sort of review of 2023. Go back over some of the highs. There's been plenty. The lows. There's been plenty. Disappointments, best games, best goals. Just have a general sort of run through of what we remember of what's been a pretty mad year at Arsenal. Got quite a few questions and comments from guys as well who have replied to the question I put out yesterday for them to get involved in this one. So we'll get straight into it, mate, shall we? I mean, it has been a pretty mad year. When you go back to where Arsenal were on January the 1st, 2023, what they had ahead of them at that stage, none of us knew what to expect. We all hoped it was going to end well. It didn't in the end, but I mean, it's been a pretty mad year. How do you look back on 2023?
I mean, I suppose it's hard not to sort of like have that tinge of regret to it, is there? But because obviously by the time we get to 2023, I think people are already starting to hope, to believe. I think the 6-week World Cup break probably sort of discouraged. Actually, wait a minute. Is my screen flickering for you as well?
No, it looks fine to me.
Right. We'll just keep this in, won't we? Keep it like live and Christmassy.
Just ignore it. Just go for it. Honestly,
ignore it. Apologies if my screen is flickering and I got distracted for that reason. Yeah, I mean, like it starts with that. I think it's hope still then, isn't it? And that builds to something really special. And I think probably by February, I thought Arsenal were going to win the league. I never thought it would be easy, but I think Arsenal were good enough. And then, yeah, it sort of goes wrong, but the ride was really, really fun. And, a lot of people out there will sort of complain that we're not bashing Arsenal for not winning a trophy for so long. But like in football, you very rarely have that long to sort of sit and bask in the glory of any particular moment. So I think the best thing to do is enjoy the ride. And like there have been some incredible moments this year. I remember you and I sat with, I think Kaya was there as well at Villa Park.
I'm going to stop you there. I reckon we'll go over those in a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to go.
Don't go over too many.
We'll list some of our best memories and sort of have a little chapter of that. So before you get into that, we'll start with that then, shall we? Let's start on a high, and we will go through some of our best memories. And there have been plenty. There've been some amazing moments that we've both shared together in press boxes. Not least the one you're about to talk about that you were just mentioning there. So let's sort of pick out some of the ones that really sort of stand out from what we've enjoyed in 2023 so far.
I'll let you have Reese.
No, you carry on there with the Villa one. I think
I think the Villa was
a real special one.
I thought the Villa one was absolutely just the most brilliantly bizarre, bonkers experience, heightened all the more so for us from our experience because right behind us, as the ball's flying off Jorginho's boot, and I thought it was going in, and I it's still in my mind. I almost remember it as like Jorginho's just hit it top corner. I saw him. I didn't my head didn't move quick enough, and then there was celebration. So I've never really seen Emi Martinez's madness, his moment of madness, because almost immediately afterwards there is what might generously be described as raised voices and a degree of aggression behind us. It was quite funny at the press box at Villa Park a few weeks ago. it's very obvious that they've sat the Arsenal analysts at one end of the press box, the Villa analysts at the other, and they are taking no more risks. It's just so mad. And a lot of Arsenal, and like the thing you kind of said with your rational brain was title-winning seasons in February and March, they aren't this crazy. You know, there is a moment where they put a run together, but it just makes it all the more fun to relive those moments, doesn't it? I thought for me that was, and I mean, and the fact that as you're leaving Villa Park, you hear that City have just drawn or are drawing with Nottingham Forest. And I sort of thought that was the moment where I thought, this is happening. And then City do City things, don't they?
Yeah, I admit I was starting to believe at that point. I think it was very hard to sort of come away from that game and not think that happens to title winning sides. And I think the fact that you sort of marry that together, that 2 weeks later you had the Reece Nelson Bournemouth incident as well. And when those sort of things are happening, you're just like, oh, this is, the stars are aligning here. It's a title winning moment. It's a Makeda for Man United against Aston Villa type thing. It was a really, that's definitely up there in my highlights. That it came off the back of the Man City defeat, and it had been 3 games in a row without a win. Go there was 2-1 at half time to Villa, and you thought, oh, here we go, the collapse is well and truly underway. And then to sort of come back the way they did, and to get those 2 late goals and the way they went in, it was pretty mad. And yeah, I just remember that moment in the press box when Martinelli was running through. There was me, you, and Kaya sat next to each other, all like punching each other on the legs. It was about to go in. It was very, very good. So that is
incredibly professional.
It is definitely up there. There's no doubt about that. And as someone, is it Apollo Ara? I can't pronounce that. I'm so terrible. Honestly, I'm like Chris Kamara when it comes to pronunciations and names. Best moment.
Got an easy one there.
Go on, and how do you pronounce that?
I'm going to assume that this guy is Cypriot. So we have Apoel as in the club. Apoel Ara, BT5ZH.
Far better than me.
Come on.
Far better than me.
What?
He's gone with Aston Villa. He says, for the best moment, I go for Villa game. Personally, I thought we were going to win the league after that last-minute goal. The way they came back, the up-and-down game away from home, the quality of the strike, the emotion, see it bouncing off the back of Martinez's head, which was very, very funny. And then him going up for the corner, and then Emery tearing strips off him afterwards in the press conference was hilarious as well. And he says, just edges it ahead of the Bournemouth game.
I think everyone forgets that. I mean, like, you know, if I were a Villa fan, I would love Emi Martinez for all the shithousery, the way he infuriates every other team. But it does make it all the sweeter when it sort of, quite literally in this case, rebounds back off him, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a very funny moment. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great moment. I mean, Reece against Bournemouth, it's just my favourite. I think my favourite ever Emirates moment. It was just unbelievable. And yeah, it's very few times that I totally lost my cool in a press box, as in, you know, lost the professionalism. Nacho's goal, I always remember, against Man City in a semi-final at Wembley a few years back. I did it. I think because it was just such an unexpected goal. It came from nowhere, 1-0 down, then suddenly Nacho arriving at the back post to score. I lost it at that point and I was in the press box in the Man City end as well, which I had to quickly sort of check myself. But the Nelson's one, I was right behind it, and I really struggled. I admit I was on my feet when that went in. It was just unbelievable. And the scenes afterwards as well, it was just an unbelievable moment. I don't think anyone who was in the ground that day, or even watching it around the world, because you've seen those classic videos that Arsenal put out, sort of did a montage of all the social media videos of people watching it in pubs and stuff like that. It was just an amazing moment. And another moment that really sort of added to the feeling that they could go on. So I think that's up there. I mean, what else do you got? You got Martinelli's goal against Man City this season.
I mean, I was just thinking, 2 last-minute winners against Manchester United haven't even made the cut yet. Like, it's been a dramatic year. I mean, I think certainly in terms of this year, I think for me that United winner is right up there, and I do wonder if this season,
which one, Nketiah or this season?
Oh yeah, which one exactly? Declan Rice.
Yeah,
this season feels like even the last minute winners feel a little different, a little less mad.
Yeah,
a little more like Arsenal have just needed their time to grind the opposition down. But you know, everything about that game, the way that United were would have won if it wasn't for some absolutely like at the time I thought it was a fluke. More every day, I think that's brilliant defending by Gabriel to contort himself to make Garnacho offside. The Declan Rice volley, the way that Anana is both unfortunate and also maybe could have done better. That that is a moment that has the feeling right now, and we have to be very careful not to get carried away because there's two other good teams in the title race, but has the feeling of like a moment, doesn't it?
Yeah. I actually enjoyed Jesus' goal more than the Rice goal because in that game, because you were still sort of celebrating, you know, when you get a double celebration, because you're still celebrating the first goal, everyone's still like enjoying it. And I was in the crowd, I wasn't in the press box that day, I was in the stands and right next to the away fans. So you're giving it to the away fans, and then suddenly you look up and Jesus is going through, and it was that moment of the sort of the anticipation. You hear the noise level go up in the stadium more and more of when, who was it? Was it Vieira made the pass? He made the pass. Someone made the pass.
I thought it was Vieira.
Was it Vieira made the pass to Jesus? And you hear it, the decibel levels rise a bit, and then he does the turn. You hear it go even more, and then there's just silence of waiting to see if he scores or not, and then it was just bedlam after that. So I think that was right up there. The Martinelli goal against City, in terms of what it meant, you know, I think that's a huge moment for Arsenal this season. Even the Community Shield, beating them on penalties in the Community Shield again, you know, what that psychologically did for the team was a huge moment as well. So there was honestly, I think the best performance of the season, the best result of the year, was the 2-0 win at Newcastle at the end of last season. It was there's not many games when I go to now in the press box and stuff, and you just think, God, that was so good. The performance, it was not many teams would have gone and won that day. Newcastle were bang on it, and the crowd was so intense and so hostile, and Arsenal went there under so much pressure as well. They basically had to win to keep themselves in the title race. And I thought that was such an impressive performance. Obviously, it was disappointing they went and mucked it all up by losing at Brighton in the next game, and losing against Brighton the next game, which we'll talk about when we come to our disappointments, I'm sure. And so yeah, but I think that was honest. That's right up there with the best result / performance of 2023 for me.
I mean, I think you are right there, and you have number one. I would actually have very high on my list, and I know there's a bit of recency bias here, but I would have Sunday's display against Brighton, because for me that's the sort of template for like, this is why Arsenal can win the title. A good team, just like absolutely battered, hemmed in, had no idea what to do to sort of get around Arsenal and play anything like their football against Arsenal. And you know, that's what would make me hopeful for the 6 or so months ahead, that actually, like, this is a team, and like they did against Newcastle as well, a team that can absolutely dominate and really like impose themselves on teams technically. That Arsenal seemed in that game, they seemed big, strong, fast, better on the ball than one of the best ball playing teams in the league. So I think I would have that right up there. But like, Newcastle is the best performance of the year by far.
Yeah, I agree with you on that Brighton game. I said it in one of the shows I did today. I thought that was up there with one of the best performances during Arteta's time at Arsenal. That was the sort of game that, you know full well, Arteta went home, poured himself a glass of red wine, and just sat there thinking, that was literally exactly what I want from my team. You know, you could see how happy he was after the game, and listen to his comments. That's exactly what he wants from Arsenal, isn't it? Just to not give another side basically a sniff for 90 minutes, and just the intensity, the pressure, the press, everything about it was, aside from the fact that they should have scored more goals, it was the stereotypical Mikel Arteta performance there. It was really, really good. I mean, there were some other really solid performances in it, but yeah, I would say those two for me are right out there. And the City game, to limit City to what they did in that home game, you know, a side like City, that was so impressive. You know, granted, Arsenal didn't create that much in that game as well, but you're not really going to, I imagine, against a team like City on the best of days. So I thought that was really out there. I think those are probably the three best performances so far.
Champions League games as well. I know they're not like sexy opposition, but like in the Champions League, Arsenal at home, Arsenal scored 12 goals and conceded none. Like, it's been a good place to be, the Emirates, this season for the most part. This year,
absolutely. All right. What about disappointments then? I mean, like I said, I mentioned it before. The Brighton game, the 3-0. It doesn't really get much worse than that. I think, in terms of the overall, the performance, the mood, the emotion of it all, of kind of knowing the title gone. Yes, it went officially against Forest after that, but it was a Brighton game. It was that weekend, that day when Everton, City went and won Everton, and then Arsenal got done by Brighton at Emirates. It was just leaving the stadium that day. It was just a horrible, horrible day. There's not really anything else in terms of game stroke results that comes close to that in my opinion. Not even the Forest one.
I see. I actually do. I found the Forest one harder to take. I think partly because I knew by then that obviously we all knew by then that the title was gone, but I thought there would be something quite special about like sort of Arsenal like dying on their sword, so to speak, of taking it to game 38. I mean, I can't even remember if that was possible. I think even then they would have needed City to drop points, but either way, making sure that they weren't the ones to lose the title, that City had to go and win it. I thought I found that more disappointing as someone that had chronicled this season and several years of Arsenal, because it's one of the rare times where I was just like, I just think this team deserves much more than it's got out of this. And you could tell, like, that game, everything about Arsenal was just emotionally battered and bruised, and
their heads had gone. They'd gone. Yeah,
and it was
the black kit. The black kit deserved better as well, because that was the final. That was the final appearance in the black kit, and that kit definitely deserved better than to go out like that.
I presume your hope for 2024 is a better away kit.
Yes, 100% at the top of my hope for 2024 is that the away kit gets immediately recalled and we never have to see it ever again. They can come and take the one that my son's got, that I'm actually looking at right now in the suitcase on my bed, that we're taking away on holiday tomorrow. And I should probably actually take that out and leave it here rather than let him wear
it. My soon to be born, hopefully by the time this goes out, now born nephew has a 3 to 6 month old Arsenal kit waiting for him. Can I go get it? It's literally.
I thought you were about to give us an exclusive there that you were about to be a father, James. I was about to say, what?
No, that exclusive's not for. I'm not allowed to drop exclusives on this show. I mean, is this not the dinkiest thing you have ever seen? And I'm sure you have seen one before. Look at that.
Oh. Very cute. Only set you back about a cool £40 for that as well.
It was £40. Yeah, unbelievable. I wanted to get the away kit because that was £10 cheaper.
Yeah, it made me laugh on Black Friday. They're basically trying to give the away kit away at half price because no one wants it. No one of a sane mind wants it. Anyway, so yeah, I think those two games. I get what you're saying about Forest, but I went with that. Their heads had gone. It was, everyone knew that the title was out. I think Man City needed a point from the last two games by that point, and Arsenal obviously. Then Arsenal lost, so that City got that point in that one. So it was done and dusted. The final game was good. It was a nice way to end, because it could have been miserable after everyone was disappointed. But there was some really obviously the whole Xhaka scoring twice and getting the send off that he deserved. And when Arteta took the microphone and the whole stadium just drowned him out by singing his name over and over again, and you could sort of see how emotional Arteta was for it with it all. It was a nice way to end after such a good season. The fact that they got that send off, there wasn't a real sort of sense of a damp squid on that final day, which would have been a shame because it had been such an emotional sort of season for everyone. I thought that was a nice moment at 2023. Was that final game? I've got a question here that I wanted to bring up. I think this is the right one. It's from Matt. So if you go back to a point in the 22-23 and replay that moment with a better outcome, which moment would that be? I would replay the Saka penalty moment, though this time he tucks that away. Who knows how our season would have gone if we didn't throw away 3 points that day? So what would you go back to, do you think, if you can change the outcome of one moment in so I mean we're talking 2023 because it's the second half of the season, so that's the key point, obviously.
I assume Matt, really does want a moment, not a game. And I'm going to hate myself for saying this because I still don't entirely buy the argument that this one moment brought Liverpool kind of back to life at Anfield. But I'd like to be sure, I'd like to know how the world would have changed if that Granit Xhaka, this is the thing, I don't think it's that important. The shove, whatever it was, the foul when Arsenal are 2-0 up at Anfield.
It was on Trent, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I think probably Liverpool like raise themselves up, come back from the dead a bit later, and I don't want to get into Granit Xhaka bashing, especially now that he's gone. He did so much good for Arsenal in that season, but I just would like to know, because if Arsenal win the league, if Arsenal win at Anfield, like, then I'm certain they go and win the league. I actually don't think it's that much. I mean, with the obvious exception of the fact that William Saliba's down by then, down and injured. Maybe that's the other thing I might want to change, but I'll leave that and say, yeah, what happens if Arsenal somehow get out of Anfield with 3 points?
Yeah, that's a big moment. I mean, the Saka one's key, because I don't think the draw at Anfield's the worst result. If you draw at Anfield, then go and win at West Ham the following week, then I think those 4 points from those 2 games is decent. And then I think you definitely go and beat Southampton in the next game as well. So
yes, that's my thing is, if you win at Anfield, I think you win the next 2 games as well. And then,
but this moment, the Saka penalty is 2-1. This is to go 3-1 up. And you basically that kills the game. West Ham don't come back from this. So I think that ball goes the right side of the post. Arsenal win that game, and then I'm convinced they beat Southampton. You've taken 7 points from Liverpool, West Ham, and Southampton rather than 3. I mean, you're in a hell of a strong position ahead of the game against Manchester City. So I think the Saka one is very hard to ignore if you could change a moment. I go back to Anfield though, and even after all that, at 2-2. Martinelli and Saka on 2-on-1 in the very last second of the game, and Martinelli overhits the pass to play Saka in. Make that pass, which was a very simple pass, and send Saka away 1-on-1 in the very last moment. I think back to that so much. Think back to it. I'm always going to remember that moment, and so I think that's right up there as well. But I think it's really hard to ignore this. As just I mean, if Arteta doesn't play Saliba in that game, which I don't think he should have done, then the whole thing could have been completely different. And we never know, because he actually got this injury, he suffered it in the Fulham game just before it, didn't he? So who knows? He could have, even if he'd been rested on the Thursday night and he'd come back in at the weekend, it could have happened at the weekend anyway. So we never know if it is just, it's all hypothetical, of course. But I think that was such a huge turning point, losing Saliba and then losing Tomiyasu on the back of it within a few minutes against Sporting. That just basically that whole Sporting game, I would just go back to an hour before kickoff on the team sheets going in and just change it completely. I don't care about the result. I don't care about going out Europa League on that night, but I would just change that team selection in an instant if I could. It's real. I think Saliba's absence coupled with Tomiyasu then going down as well it was just such a crucial moment in Arsenal season, and they just couldn't ever really recover from missing those 2 players, but especially Saliba at the back.
I think the worst thing was it was one of those injuries that for a fair while it really, and you sort of talking to people that know, they were like, we should see him again. We don't know when, but we should. And like you say, it probably would have flared. It could have flared up again at some stage, but that night just felt like, oh dear, what has something, because you knew the Tomiyasu injury was. I mean, almost the minute he went off, you were like, we're not seeing him again this season. And I remember seeing Saliba walk by, and you're like, he looks okay, but it's in the back of your mind. It's just like, if he's not. You knew it's Rob Holding. It's all due respect to Holding. It just is not going to be the same if Rob Holding's playing.
I always go every so often that tweet that I did as Saliba's going off starts doing the rounds again. People quote tweet it and they're like, "Oh, pain! This was the moment," and it suddenly starts doing the rounds again. And it's like I think it's like, "Oh wow, Saliba down now, limping off as well. This is a disaster," something like that. And it's just, it was just a horrible moment.
Underrated rubbish night from then on as well. Like, people forget how dispiriting it was to see Aaron Ramsdale get named as well. You're just like, wow, this is the worst night possible.
That was an unbelievable goal, though. I mean, you see those lobs from the halfway line or wherever it was, quite a few times. There are very few better than that one. The pace, the trajectory, the way it went in, the only spot it basically could have beaten Ramsdale. It was an unbelievable goal. That just was not Arsenal's night at all, was it? And that's a warning for the Champions League. Everyone thinks Porto are going to be a pushover, so I still can't get Sporting out my head from what happened last season. So yeah, I mean, I think those are definitely the key moments that I think we'd all go back and change. It's very hard not to come to the conclusion of Saka penalty, Saliba, Martinelli's overhit pass, all those incidents, and it was a tough one. Okay, let's go slightly better. Bring the sort of light in the mood again. Now let's talk about some of the sort of star performance of 2023 and best signings, that sort of thing. I mean, I still pinch myself at the moment that Arsenal have got Declan Rice. He was so good against Brighton at the weekend. He was ill. He literally barely get out of bed by the sounds of it in the build up to this game, and yet suddenly he just gets thrown onto the pitch because Arsenal got no one else to play, and he produces a performance like that. I mean, I just pinch myself that Arsenal have got him at times still. He's just such an impressive player every single week, and so he's right up there in terms of the star performance of 2023. I know he's only been here for half of it, but you go a long way to find a better performer than that. And then obviously William Saliba, when he's been fit, is just so good. Odegaard has just flourished into, it was already a special player, but now he's just a magical player. So, there's been lots of really standout performers and standout additions for Arsenal. But yeah, Declan Rice, just an incredible highlight of 2023.
Have you seen the meme going around? It's the one it's a quite popular meme format where it's like, "Thank you for changing my life." It's a sort of got a beardy, probably looks a bit like me with a top knot, beardy guy sort of saying to something, "Thank you for changing my life," and it's just next to it is a picture of Declan Rice saying, "I'm just Declan Rice," because it's Arsenal didn't need a transformative defensive or anchoring midfielder, and yet they've got this guy that is just has just turned them into a complete dominant force. I was doing some stats the other day. Conor Gallagher and I think Lewis Cook have 12 interceptions in the opposition half, and that's the best in the league other than Rice. 12 is amazing. Declan Rice has 16. There are some teams in the Premier League that don't have that many. That's how he just lets Arsenal lock the opposition into their own third of the pitch. He's always there snaffling up loose balls. I love the moment against Brighton where Brighton are sort of trying to man mark everyone, and so that means Billy Gilmore's on Declan Rice, and Rice gets the ball in the edge of the attacking third. Gilmore just sort of comes close to him, and Rice just wanders off, glides into the penalty area. And there's so many minutes where I'm just so many moments this season, I can't believe there was any skepticism. I thought he was going to be great, and yet he's still blown by even my wildest expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, he maybe, like you say, he is the player of 2023, even though he's only played half of it. My other sort of shout, especially on the sort of signings front, there was a moment in those first few months after he arrived, where it just felt like every pass Leandro Trossard made was an assist. I mean, he has been, obviously he was probably never viewed as a core member of the starting 11, and he has his sort of good moments and bad moments, but what a brilliant player to get in your squad, and what a wonderful pickup given the circumstances where Arsenal were desperately looking for someone. And he carried a huge weight early in that year, especially in that period when Nketiah was off form and Jesus wasn't back yet. So I want to give some flowers to Trossard, because he's probably not a player we as an Arsenal press pack celebrate quite as much as we ought to.
No, he's a great player, Trossard. Like you said, he's such a valuable member of the squad as well, can play in so many different areas, and he's been a really good, excellent addition. Yeah, no, he definitely deserves his flowers, Trossard, as well as Declan Rice does. Right, I'm going to just go through. We've got a few. I asked some people to sort of send in some of their stuff, so I'll bring a few of these up now. We've got John here who says, this season only, best game beating Man City in the Community Shield, which I think, it was a big it was a big moment psychologically, as we were saying. Just getting that, you could see what it meant to the players after that game, couldn't you? It was a big moment. Worst game, he's gone Fulham 2-2.
That was rubbish.
Funniest moment, Martinelli using Ake's head to beat Man City 1-0. Best goal, Jesus against United. Best moment, Rice against Liverpool. We haven't talked about that. What a game that was. Worst moment, there's a really good one we haven't spoken about. Timber's injury, of course. Absolutely. If you could go back and change anything in this season, certainly in this year, that would be right up there. That that injury not happening, a horrible moment for him especially, but for Arsenal and Arteta as well. Losing a player like that on his debut, it's just awful. And then best player Rice, best signing Rice. I think that's very pretty clear cut as well. So yeah, anything in there surprise you or catch your eye?
It's very 2023, 24, isn't this from John? Yeah, I
He
can't
says
believe
at
we
the
haven't.
top. He says at the top this season only.
This season only. My bad. Yeah. I mean, that Fulham game is really one that needs to sort of be dropped into the dustbin of history and forgotten forever. Well, we'll see if it ends up costing Arsenal at the end of the season. That was proper rubbish. But what I liked is sort of, for the most part, you would say this team has learnt from it. Also, worst moment, throw one in there. Just if you put your Arsenal hat on, the Newcastle goal, it's just like, even if there's no VAR didn't do anything wrong, whatever, it just feels absolutely rubbish, doesn't it? And still a shadow over the season.
Both defeats do so far this season, because they're just two games that Arsenal shouldn't have lost, and that is frustrating. I think so. Yeah, that's up there. RK Circles 3765 says best player 2023 Martin Odegaard, definitely deserves a big shout. It's been fantastic. Best goal, of course, was Reece Luke Nelson. I didn't know Reece's middle name was Luke. Did not know that. Worst games, one
Luke Nelson sounds like an 80s action hero.
Worst games, the 1-0 defeat at Forest, the 4-1 drum. We haven't even talked about that, have we? The 4-1 drubbing at the Etihad. That was a really miserable night.
We never speak of that.
Yeah. Worst moments, Saliba's injury against Sporting Lisbon. Greetings from Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Thank you very much for your comment there, Arcade Circles. Yeah. Saliba, no great surprise there. But yeah, the 4-1 defeat at City, that was a bad night. I remember rocking up to that night and they had the trophy out on the pitch. I forgot my coat, first of all. I left my coat at home, and it was Manchester in April, was it? But at night it
was really cold.
Yeah. So that wasn't a good start. And I saw the trophy, it was right there. It was almost within touching distance. And you're just starting to dream of it. Like, can they go there and surprise everyone and find some form and win? Obviously the answer was a very definitive no. And it was like, yeah,
it's great first 3 or 4 minutes, wasn't it?
It was it went downhill.
7 minutes, and then it went.
So yeah, that was definitely a bad night. So that's a very good shout. I'm just seeing if there's another one here. Sure. No, sorry. Sangeet says extra time best player of 2023. Says can't just pick one. Go Odegaard, Saka, Saliba. Yeah, I mean the three of them are certainly right up there. Walk into any starting 11 in the world, perhaps only De Bruyne and Salah would be the players to maintain their spot ahead of them. Yeah, I mean we barely even talked about Saka actually in the show. We spent some time talking about Odegaard, Saliba, but Saka just. I think we probably, I don't know, is like, do we not appreciate him enough now? We're just so used to him doing what he does and producing the numbers that he does at his age. And it's almost like we kind of, it's just a given now, isn't it, with Bukayo Saka? Maybe we don't give him enough flowers. He needs more of them.
I take him for granted. I'd definitely admit that, because I found his season sort of broadly unremarkable, and yet he's pretty much, well, he must be kind of not far off an assist or a goal every game, something at that level. He's getting really good output, and I'm like, it's just what I expect from Bukayo. Keep it going. But
yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things that it's maybe from the outside, sort of people in the wider world maybe don't understand about what is making this so special for Arsenal is. It's not just that you're, competing for titles and back to where you feel like you belong, but that, as a player, the one that has really got you back to where you feel like you belong is your academy player, born and bred, that every team in the world would love to sign off you, but they're not getting. It makes it incredibly special to have, your star forward be Hale End through and through. And he's, he is the benchmark, the pinnacle, or however you want to describe it. He's the person that typifies what's great about this Arsenal team and Arsenal Football Club. It has to be said.
Yeah, actually, in terms of best moments, those contract renewals for Saliba, Gabriel, Martinelli, Saka, they've got to be right up there as well, because you kind of just know that with those deals that this isn't going to stop. This journey isn't going to stop. It's going to continue, because so often with Arsenal, we've seen decent teams start to be built and then players just move on and you go back to square one again. We kind of know now that that's not going to happen, because these players are here and they're here for a long time, and that's a great thing. Right, we're going to start wrapping this up, but to sort of end, we're going to look ahead to 2024 quickly. So we've talked 2023. What is going to happen to Arsenal in 2024? Give me your predictions for 2024.
We really have to say we are recording this before the Liverpool game, and I do feel like a lot about what we feel about 2024 can change. I think Arsenal are going to win the Premier League. I don't think City are so good that they can haul an Arsenal with a 5-point lead in that easily. And I think Arsenal have got something here. They've got a really exceptional defence. They have the goals are starting to come, and if the players stay fit, they will stay just about the goals. If it's not the Premier League, I could also see it being the Champions League. I think Arsenal are going to win a big trophy, and if they don't, they will get close enough that it will feel like another great season, even if in a year's time we're doing a very similar version of this and saying, "Oh, yeah, what a ride!" But ultimately, maybe there's 2025. I think it's going to happen sooner or later, because this team is too good, even with City and Liverpool as its rivals, to not win anything. Maybe that's just madness. Maybe this is my what's the guy in Love Actually holding up the cards, going, "To me, Arsenal, you are perfect." They're not perfect yet, but I think they might be one of the best teams in the world. Imagine having said that, like when not even when Mikel Arteta was appointed, but it's 3 years ago. We thought he was a few days away from the sack.
Yeah,
amazing.
Is that guy in Love Actually with the signs not one of the biggest villains in film history?
Oh, it's really. I mean, you mean
he's
in
on
that
the
thing?
doorstep of his best mate's house, who's just got married, declaring his undenying love.
He'd never spoken to her either.
His wife, silently with cards, and telling his wife to keep quiet. And I just, whenever I see that, I just think he's the biggest scumbag in film history. Surely he's right up there. He's like, you got Darth
and yet
Vader,
he's not the biggest
Vader, or
scumbag
the
in that
Emperor
film.
guy from Love Actually. It's like I don't quite know how to balance them out.
He's not the biggest scumbag in that film either.
No,
Hugh Grant, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and we've had some bad ones since Hugh Grant, calls a member of his staff fat. That's a recall petition in his constituency. Then abuses his power to shack up with her, whilst at the same time alienating Britain's historic ally in the United Kingdom, the United States. I mean, that Prime Minister makes Boris Johnson look competent and reliable.
No one makes Boris Johnson look competent and reliable. Okay, going back to 2024, my predictions, I think you're right. I think, and obviously there's lots of things that can change in this time, but I think Arsenal win a trophy this season, a major trophy. I don't know whether it'll be the Premier League. I don't know whether it'll be Champions League. I think it's more likely to be the Premier League. But I kind of caveat that if Declan Rice and William Saliba stay fit and play the majority, if not all, of the games remaining this season, then Arsenal win the title. Or I think Arsenal win the title. But I think those two players are so absolutely crucial. If Arsenal lose Declan Rice for 2 months, if Arsenal lose Saliba for 2 months, I think they'll struggle. But I hope they don't lose those players. And I agree. I think 2024 is going to be a really amazing year for Arsenal. I think this team is good enough to win one of the two big trophies this season. I've seen nothing to suggest that they're not. I think they'll score enough goals, even though that is maybe the one thing at the moment. I think they will score enough goals. They share it around enough. I think defensively, they're so good. I'm intrigued to see what happens at Anfield in a few days' time. And again, of course, we're recording this after Anfield. If Arsenal have just been battered 5-0, then we're going to look really, really stupid. But I'm intrigued to see how Arsenal cope with that and handle that, and what kind of performance they put in at Anfield. But even if they lose at Liverpool, I don't think that means Arsenal are going to... There's going to be lots of points dropped this season. Everyone's going to drop points. We're seeing it already, and I don't see that changing in 2024. I think teams are just going to take points off each other. And I think Arsenal are going to be the best of the lot. I really do. I think they've got the tools to do it. So I'm ending on a positive note as well. So there you go.
Be embarrassing when we look back in a year.
I know when
Tottenham
Arsenal
are
finished
6
fifth.
points clear of Arsenal.
They go out to Porto and finish fifth in the Premier League. But it's football. You never know. Anything can happen. But anyway, look, mate, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And thank you very much to everyone who's been watching and supporting Inside Arsenal Extra Time since we started it in the summer. We're coming to the end of our first calendar year of this show. And we will promise to continue doing this throughout 2024 when hopefully we, as myself and James just predicted, end the season on a really positive note. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas, everyone, wherever you're watching this or listening to this around the world. I hope you're having a great time with your families and you're enjoying yourself. And we'll be back in the new year to go over it all over again. Thank you very much, James, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you all at the title parade in May.
What a way to end. Take it easy, mate. See you soon.